Harry L. Chandler.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Holyoke, Massachusetts,
Okay. Do you remember what year?
1921.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any siblings?
I had two sisters and a brother. The brother came after.
Okay.
I mean, when I was born, I had two sisters. And then I got a baby brother.
Oh, very nice. So you're the middle, kind of in the middle there, huh?
Yes.
Nice. So what were your parents like? What did they do for a living?
Well, my father was what you'd call a house painter.
Okay.
He was a painter and paper hanger. And my mother was just a housekeeper.
Okay. So, I'm sure as you mentioned, you grew up. Well, wait for the plane.
Pardon?
Wait for the plane. See,
There's a helicopter going over.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chandler, you grew up during a very difficult time for a lot of Americans during the Great Depression. Do you have any memories of what life was like back then, during the Depression?
Well, I knew there was problems at home. I was 16. I went to work for the Popular Food Market. That was a supermarket at that time. Had to help out some way. I didn't keep my money. My money went to the household.
Okay.
My father was a painter and paper hanger. My mother was strictly a homekeeper. Beautiful woman. Sweet. I'm sorry.
No, please. No, that's what we're here for. So before we began, you and your grandson were telling me about when you were a child, how you liked sailor suits. Would you mind telling us the story about the sailor suits when you were a child?
When we used to go shopping for clothes,
Yeah.
I used to know, I want a sailor suit, Mommy. I want a sailor suit. And of course, they'd buy me, at that time was a depression, and they could only buy me what I had to have to go to school. And I used to get so disappointed. And eventually, I got my sailor suit. I was a little tight, had a sailor suit. I felt so good. So good. And I don't know why, but I always wanted the Navy. Ever since I was a child, there was just something about the Navy. I didn't know too much about it, but I wanted to be a sailor in the Navy. I can't say it any other way.
So at what age did you decide, so as you just said, you really were interested in the Navy. What age did you decide to enlist in the Navy?
When I was a senior in high school, I left high school to join the Navy.
Why did you join at that time?
Well, there was a war going on in Europe. There was a lot of confusion, and they had conscriptions. They were conscripting people into the army and so on, and I says, oh, I'm not going anywhere but in the Navy. And I left high school to go to the Navy.
Do you remember?
I was in my senior year.
Oh, wow. So how old, you must have been how old? 17? 18?
18, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some individuals, they needed their parents' approval or signature. How did your parents feel about you enlisting in the Navy?
I don't think I needed. Yeah, I did need their signature. I was working for my father. And the recruiter came. And as we were working, because my mother told him where I was working with my dad. And he came and he said, we got an opening for you to join if you want to join now. And I said to my father, Pop, I'm joining the Navy. He looked at me and started laughing. I said, I'm not joking, Pop. I said, this man is going to take me to Springfield and he's going to swear me in. And my father said, well, if that's the way you want it, Harry, it's okay with me because you've always talked about the Navy. And there I am, and here I am.
Wow. It's an incredible story. So you said you were brought into Springfield to be sworn in, and where did you go for basic training?
Newport, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Was
Yes.
that your first time away from home?
Really, yes.
Yeah. And how did that feel? How'd that feel?
Well, at the beginning, it was just, oh boy, I don't have my father to tell me what I have to do. I didn't miss anybody at the very beginning. And then after a week's time, less than a week's time, I began to miss my mother, my father, my brother, my sisters, and made me think, geez, did I do the right thing? But I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So I understand that you were a part of the hospital corps. So what part attracted you to the hospital corps duty?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I got ill. I joined the Navy, and at boot camp I got ill, and I was sent to the infirmary, and I see the hospital corpsmen, the way they were working, the way they would talk with the nurses, so they would talk with the doctors, and I says, hey, I think that's what I want to do. And that's how come I became a corpsman. I requested to go to corps school, hospital corps school.
What were some of your initial responsibilities when you went to the hospital corps school?
My responsibilities? Make sure I was dressed correctly. And pay attention to what I was being told.
Sure. Okay. So, was your first duty station in Hawaii? How did you find yourself in Hawaii?
I was, let me think just how this went on. I got out of boot camp and I got stationed in Boston, Massachusetts at the Chelsea Naval Hospital. And then from the Chelsea Naval Hospital, I was, after I got that training, I was transferred up to Bar Harbor, Maine, up to the section base. And after that, I said, geez, I can go to Hawaii if I can pull the right strings. So I pulled the right strings and I came out to Hawaii.
Wow. So, do you remember what year was that?
That I can't help you with.
Okay, no problem.
1940.
Can you say
I'm
something?
sorry, yeah, 1941, September 1941.
Yeah, it was before the war.
Okay. So, September 1941. So, your duty station here in Hawaii, was that a hospital or a dispensary?
It was with Mobile Hospital number 2.
Was that in?
It was up in we built these metal huts. They weren't quartzite huts. They were more like a house.
Wow.
And this was before the war. And we were up on Aiea Heights, and we built these places, and the CBs helped us put them up too. And we had everything going when the war started.
Okay, so September 1941, you're in the mobile hospital in Aiea Heights. This is your first time here in Hawaii. You mentioned you pulled some strings to get here. So do you remember what life was like before the attack? So did you have some friends here?
I used to go down to hotel. I had friends.
Okay.
We used to go down to Hotel Street together. That was the big gathering place for the sailors. And then I found out that Taylor Street had a lot of whorehouses at that time. And at some of them, maybe 3 or 4, they'd have a corpsman to be in a room in that particular facility, let's call it.
Okay, it's okay.
And when a sailor would go in and have something to do with the prostitute, he came out and he came into our room. He got a prophylaxis. We put his name in a book, his ship or his station, his age, the whole thing. And then if he did come down with something, he wouldn't get his pay cut because we had proof that he had gotten a prophylaxis.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that was one of your responsibilities.
Yes.
So do you remember were you in like the Rex rooms, the Newcastle, the New Senator Hotel? Do you remember which of the brothels you worked at?
They were all lined up. I can't remember the names of them.
Sure. Okay.
To me, they were just a whorehouse.
Yes. It's understandable.
What else can I say?
Understandable. So, I understand that area, like you said, Hotel Street was a favorite area for a lot of sailors.
It was. It was.
Do you recall there was a place called the Black Cat Cafe?
No, I don't.
No? Okay, that's okay. Were there any other areas that were popular that you remember kind of frequenting or visiting with your friends when you were on Liberty Pass?
I used to go to Waikiki Beach. I thought that was beautiful. It was great. It was nice. And they go, why you always want to go to Waikiki Beach? I said, oh, the sun's there. Nice. There's girls there too. I said, there's a lot of girls go there. What can I say?
No.
I was a sailor.
Yeah.
I was looking.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
My eyes were wide open.
So you just hung out at the beach? Did you suntan? Were you surfing? Just hanging out with friends?
Yeah, I didn't do any surfing. I couldn't swim.
Okay.
I got into the Navy because I was able to finally swim the length of a pool and back. I was afraid of the water because when I was a child, our milkman had a little boy, and he drowned in one of the canals in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And from that time on, my mother used to, if I got in up to my knees, my mother would say, "You're gonna drown, you can't go out there, you're gonna drown." I got very fearful of water.
Sure.
It was very hard for me when I got to boot camp and I had to swim the pool up and back. I did it, but boy, what a job that was. Why are you grabbing onto the side? Come on. I made it. I made it.
It had to be scary though, huh? If you said you didn't learn to swim until later
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
But then, I kept on going back to the pool, and finally I was able to swim without having fear. I was afraid I was going to drown. My mother put that fear in me.
Yeah.
"You're going to drown," she said. "You're going to drown." I go up to my knees. "Don't go any further, you're going to drown," because of the milkman's son.
Sure. Sounds like you persevered, you kept practicing and then you got better and you learned and
Yeah.
yeah, here you are. Okay. So we're kind of rolling towards December 1941. Do you remember the days leading up to the attack? What were some of the things you were doing at that time?
The days leading up to attack, I going ashore. I was doing my duties. We had Mobile Hospital number 2. We had just constructed that. I mean it with the Seabees. We had constructed our living quarters. We constructed the operating room, everything. Up on Aia Heights. They weren't Quonset huts. They had the regular roof, and they looked like a big garage. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Do you remember what your pay grade was during that time?
What my what?
Pay grade? What you were being paid in hospital corps?
Oh, $21 a month.
Well, that's pretty good, right? That's
Hey, what was I doing? You could even save money.
well, it's pretty good. It's very
Yeah.
good. So at this time, do you recall, even within the Navy, were you guys aware that there was a war going on? You mentioned before about the war in Europe. Did you feel that the United States would maybe be a part of that war, or what do you recall?
Well, the war in Europe was, that was far away as far as we were concerned. We
And-
may be involved, but we didn't give it much thought. Nobody really spoke about it.
Okay. So by this point, if you're comfortable, can you walk us through what happened, what you experienced on December 7th, 1941?
Well, I was outside, I was putting up the flag, and I heard all these planes. And I says, "Oh, bunch of planes coming in from the United States." In other words, bunch of planes coming in from us, that are planes. And I saw them swooping And I said, oh, they must be practicing. They must have been here. And then I saw the bombs dropping. I saw the Arizona go up. I saw the Oklahoma capsule. I told everybody, hey, take cover, because I was afraid we were going to get strafed. I was a third class at the time. It was scary, but they put us in trucks. It took us down to the harbor to do what we could do to help those poor guys. They were in the water. They were okay. They didn't have a chance. But once they realized what was going on, then you could hear the tat-tat-tat of the machine guns and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Funny part of it was, you got so busy you weren't scared. You weren't scared at all.
Mm-hmm.
You were busy. It was after, got scared. And of course, holy smokes, only it wasn't holy smokes.
Sure.
I could have been killed.
Mm.
But you didn't think about that while you were busy taking care of people. It was such a big surprise. I mean, they never talked to us about going to war with Japan. They just said, you know, someday we may go to war. And God, we had such a clear view of the harbor where we were at the beginning, and to see what was happening. At first you could hardly believe it. You know, we thought they were our planes coming in because they were heading towards Fort Island.
Right.
Because all these battleships were lined up at Fort Island. Utah was on the other side of Fort Island. All the destroyers, I mean, it was a shock because all the destroyers are tied up like 3 and 4 together. But they broke apart very quickly. And they put us in trucks to go down to the harbor to take care of people. Some went to the hospital at Pearl. Others came up to our hospital at IE Heights, Mobile Hospital number 2. They told us that when we built Mobile Hospital number 2, when we were building hospital number 2, that we were going to build a hospital number 2 here, and someplace else was going to be a mobile hospital number 3 on territories that we had. And but it didn't enter our mind that, geez, we may be going to war. But we did.
Yeah. Mr. Chandler, you mentioned that you guys were raising the flags in your barracks, and then you got put in trucks. Do you remember, were you taken to Fort Island, or were you taken to the shoreline of
We were
Pearl?
taken to the shoreline of Pearl.
Okay.
And we started on little boats going out and pulling these guys out from oily waters. We were doing what we had to do. Some were just lying in the water. That's okay. Well, that wasn't okay.
No, it's okay. It had to be really upsetting things to see that morning.
Well, I can see it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
See the Arizona go up. See the Oklahoma capsize. See the Maryland go down. Then I see the Nevada trying to get out of the channel. I've often been asked, were you afraid? I says, no, I was too damn busy to be afraid. I said, but I was afraid after it all stopped. I says, I was afraid. I could have been killed. But you don't think of those things when you're busy. I grew up very quickly that one day. I grew up to be a man.
Yes.
I thought I was a big shot being in the Navy. But I wasn't a man. I was still a kid. But I was a man after that day. That day turned me into a man.
So you, and as someone who is a hospital corpsman, I'm sure beyond the 7th, were you caring for some of the individuals that were in the harbor that
yeah,
day?
we had, yeah, we were caring for, and we also went down to the harbor. We had to help with the capsized Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They could hear people knocking on the hull, and we went down there while they took them apart, and we took these people out and brought them right up to the hospital, or we took them to Hospital Point, to the the regular naval hospital.
Mr. Chandler, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind telling us a little more about how you guys were rescuing some of the men trapped in the Oklahoma?
Pardon?
Would you mind telling us a little more about what you were doing as they were rescuing the men from the Oklahoma? So you just said that they were pulling them out. What do you recall?
They had, it was upside down, and this was after the attack. And we went down and we helped. They were opening up the Oklahoma, which was upside down, and they'd bring the people out, and we put them on boats, so we take them either to Pearl, to the hospital at Pearl, or we bring them back to us. I mean, Pearl was overloaded, so we took them to our hospital up on Edea Heights, Mobile Hospital number 2.
Do you remember what some of sort of things? How did you treat them? What were they needing? Those men.
There were a lot of burns.
Yeah.
A lot of burns. We pulled them out of the water, the oily water. Got them all, washed them all down. Some had wounds they didn't even know they had.
Okay. Just take a quick break. Are you okay? Do you want to take a quick break, or do you want to keep going?
No, we keep going.
Keep going? Okay. So after the attack, you're treating a lot of the men who were in the ships and in the harbor that morning. What were some of the ways that did Hawaii change at all? How did this place change after the attack?
Number one change, I think, was they stopped the cat houses.
That's right, they did. It was martial law.
They did,
They did, yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. I think it happened.
Okay.
There'd be too much information that the sailors could give to the prostitutes that they could divulge to somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that's when they closed down Hotel Street.
From my research, I think they closed it down at night because you have martial law, so you have the curfew.
Yeah.
I think they did, like you said, they tried to change the hours, but again, those bars, those brothels, you can't, those are after hours activities, I guess.
Yeah.
So they're probably difficult to run. So after Pearl, after the attack, martial law in Hawaii, what are some of the other, you were in service throughout World War II.
Yes.
Can you tell us about some of the other things? Where are the other places you served after the attack?
Well, I went out to Midway.
Okay.
There was a Marine detachment out there.
Uh-huh.
I was shipped out there with them. I stayed in the Pacific for quite a while, going to different islands, helping. Midway, they had been attacked quite badly. And there are a few other islands we went out to, and I can't even think of what they are right now.
Okay. So you said you were with.
They might pop into my mind.
Okay. So you said you were with a Marine detachment during Midway.
No, I got attached to
Attached,
them.
uh-huh.
I went there. I wasn't attached to them at the time.
Okay. So your responsibility was to treat the men and look after them?
That's right.
Okay. Do you recall have any experiences or stories you'd like to share from that time that you remember?
I'm trying to forget a lot of
Sure.
it.
Sure.
I know first took care of those that needed taken care of at the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling them out of the oily waters.
Mm-hmm.
Poor bastards.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No?
We did what we could. Sent some up to our hospital up on Aiea Heights after the hospital at Pearl got loaded.
Mm-hmm.
We had quite a few up there. We had to know that we built that. We helped build that with CBs and us.
Mm-hmm.
Helped build that Mobile Hospital #2 up on Aiea Heights. They had to know something was going to happen. It was just, why would there be this extra hospital all of a sudden? Fort Schaefer had the hospital, Fort Summers had the hospital, and here we're building a hospital up on Aiea Heights. But hey, we were a little foreign to everything, if you follow me.
Sure.
We were doing it, you know, what the heck are we building this thing for? And we had everything going when it started.
You guys were young too, so it's understandable, you know, as you said, being so young at that time. How do you feel?
Thank you. Go ahead.
So, how do you feel? How did these wartime experiences? How did they affect your life?
You mean after the war?
Yes.
It's funny, you kind of try to forget what went on. And you start trying to act like nothing ever happened. You know what happened because you had so many people asking you questions. And it got to a point where they'd ask and I'd say, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't think I wanted to remember. Because that day of Pearl, that was, pardon the language, but it was a bitch.
Sure. So, what did you do? So after the war ended, you said you tried your best to forget. What did you do? Did you?
I went to work for my dad.
Okay.
I got out. I was still in the I had a 6-year term to fill out.
Okay.
But I'm talking after I finished my 6-year term, I went to work for my dad, who was a house painter and a paper hanger.
Did you start a family? Did you settle down, or?
I got married.
Yeah.
I got married during the war.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you know, I had come back to the States. It was after the war. Because I came back to the States and I met my first wife, Virginia, and we got married. Had a little girl, Carol Ann. She and I still communicate.
So, are there any? Go ahead, please.
Well, I did different things. I got to work in a grocery store and a supermarket, and then I went to work for my father, and then I went to work for Hamilton Standard, making propellers.
Oh wow. What was
Yeah.
that? What was that like?
It was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have to put the boots on that we called boots over the bottom of the propellers because they had like there was like a padding on the bottom, and you put them in different vats as they go along, and then they finish doing the scoring of the bottom of the of the propeller.
And were these for naval ships or commercial ships?
For all kinds.
Wow.
For all kinds.
It's interesting that they're always a sailor through and through, huh? As,
Oh, yeah.
Even after the war.
Oh, I want to, ever since I was a little boy, I wanted my sailor suit. You know, it was depression,
Yeah.
so they buy me clothes, but they wouldn't buy me the sailor suit. Finally, I got my sailor suit. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved the Navy. I really did.
It shows. Even today, with I see you have your navy polo on, looking
Yeah.
very nice. Yeah. So, what can you?
I would have been a good recruiter.
Oh sure, oh sure. All your experiences. So, is this going to be great? Something is that us?
No, I think so.
No, I think it's- No, no. Do you have a
That's not mine.
no?
It's my
Oh,
time.
it's your timer.
My watch. I'm legally blind,
Yes.
so I have this watch that tells me.
Oh, very nice. That's pretty snazzy. That's a cool watch.
Yeah, well, I got it because I'm legally blind. I can't see
Sure.
what time it is.
So it helps. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
the VA
Oh, very nice.
set me up with it.
Very nice. So, Mr. Chandler, is this your first visit back to Hawaii or Oahu, or did you come back before?
I came back before, not too. I came back with my wife and my girls, and I can't remember when it was,
Sure.
but it was before they even. No, they had the Arizona as a symbol, but now they got it all built up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was before, I had them here before that was,
For the memorial.
it wasn't a memorial, but it was just, you could go aboard it,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't like it is today.
Wow.
Today it's a monument.
Yeah.
It was a monument then too.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be back today for this trip? How does it feel?
Good.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm sitting out there and I hear 2 airplanes go over and everything starts snapping into place again. I start thinking, I want to keep going back. I keep asking them to go back to the harbor.
Yeah.
I can see things that people don't see anymore. It wasn't just the ships, it was the men. Trying to swim in that oily water. I'm sorry.
No, please, please. I had, you were so young, and it's, had to be incredibly difficult to come back. So,
I was busy.
yeah.
We were, all the corpsmen were busy. Everybody was busy. It just seemed, And the funny part of it, it wasn't a confusion busy.
Mhm.
It was busy. Bringing the patients because the Hospital Point had as much as they could take. We were bringing them up to Mobile Hospital number 2 that we had built.
Mhm.
It's so clear. Still in my mind what I saw. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay. And again, if you need a break, just let us know. We're happy to.
No, I don't
a few
need
more
a break.
questions. Okay. So yesterday was the 82nd anniversary. You were in attendance. So that was that your first time back to Pearl Harbor during this trip?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm not sure, honest.
Yesterday you also participated in the Pass and Review.
Yeah.
What was that like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I was in a Corvette.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear about that.
Yeah. I was in a Corvette, and we drove, and people were on the side, and they'd be cheering, and I'd wave my hand. And of course, I'm deep down in a Corvette, and they could see my hand raised up above the door.
Oh, so that was a parade down Waikiki, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you guys were the stars.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, so I just have a couple more questions. You also, when we went out to the memorial yesterday, we saw you there with your family. Was that your first time? You said you've been to the harbor, but you hadn't seen the memorial like it was yesterday.
Right.
What was that experience like?
When I went over to the front of the Arizona and saw all those names. I said, geez, I'm standing right on top of them. The only thing I could say was the poor bastards. Okay. All right.
You're okay. You're okay.
The oil is still coming up. I was able to get some flower petals and throw it in there. Whew. Hello, Ron. I'm sorry.
No, please. It had to be really difficult yesterday, and I know you made a point to stay because you wanted to meet the cadets that were coming.
The cadets.
Yeah.
They're such sweet kids.
Yeah.
I met them.
Yeah. You got to talk to some of them?
Yeah.
Share.
But they didn't ask. They didn't ask anything about the war. They didn't ask anything about. They just want to know how I felt about the Navy and stuff.
Yeah.
And all I could tell them was, I'm still a Navy man. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. They were so excited to see you. They really were. That was a big takeaway for a lot of those kids yesterday. It really made a difference. They were really honored to have met someone that was, you lived through history, right?
Yeah. History.
Yeah.
Boy, how it changed that day.
Yeah.
And the more you find out about it, the more you realize there were snafus all the way around.
Mhm.
The radar saw the blimps, but they were told that there's a huge bunch of planes coming in from the States.
California. Yeah.
Okay.
So, since you interacted with the cadets yesterday, the younger kids,
Yes.
is there any message that you would like to share for future generations, or even just the youth or children that will listen to your interview? Is there any takeaways that you want them to have?
Well, I think our country's got to be on the alert at all times. I mean, if you figure our intelligence today is so much better than it was
Sure.
then.
Sure.
It was good then, but it's much, much better now. And what they have to do is they have to remember they have a beautiful country. Love it. Work it. It's beautiful. There's no other country like ours. I love it. I kiss the ground that I walk on. I say that honestly.
You served our country. Yeah, sorry. Please.
It's a beautiful country.
Thank you so much.
Some of the politics isn't so great, but
It's a bigger country. I think it's inevitable.
But we'll forget that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chandler, those are all of my questions. Is there anything that you felt that I left out, or do you want to talk about while we're here, or touch on?
We touched upon pretty much, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Chandler, I got something I'd like to ask him, maybe fill in for you.
Please.
Hey, Pat, do you remember when you dropped out of school and you signed up for the Navy?
Oh.
But you didn't go in for almost a year and a half because they didn't need the men, right?
Right. Right. I dropped out of high school and I wanted to join the Navy right away. But at that time, they didn't need anybody. I mean, you were put on a waiting list, believe it or not.
Wow.
The Navy had a waiting list. A year and a half after that I got into the Navy. I was working with my dad on Northampton Street at the Bourbon House. And a recruiter came over because he had called my house and my mother told him where we were working. And he said to me, he came over and he came to where we were working and he says, I'm the recruiter. We're ready to take you now. I waited almost a whole year to get into the Navy.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm ready to take you now. And I said to my father, oh, Pa, I've got to join the Navy. He said, you mean you're going to leave me? I says, I'm going to leave you. You're going to have to get somebody else to help you. And he started laughing. He says, you're not going. I says, yeah, I am going. And I went with the recruiters, just left the job. Says, I'll see you tonight, Pa. And I went with the recruiters and we did everything we were supposed to do. And they said I would be leaving the next day. So I was able to say goodbye to my mother and father and my brother. And I was a happy man. I wanted the Navy ever since I was a kid. I got my sailor suit.
That's right.
Yay! Oh, and I was proud of that. Oh, you have no idea.
They look so nice, those dress whites. Even now, they're
It was just, the sailor suit was just plain, you know, you were in boot camp. There was no markings on it. It did have a dress uniform that had a blue collar, a big blue collar in the back. But, you know, it didn't have any insignias or anything. But boy, I was proud of that. And I fixed my hat different ways. That was so funny. Really. You'd stand in the mirror, you know, and you punch your hat and put it on. Nah, that's not good.
Gotta make sure you're looking, you know,
Yeah,
snazzy.
right.
So, all right. Well, that is all my questions. Mr. Chandler, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. It's just an absolute pleasure to have met you.
Thank you.
And hear your story. You know, as I said, you lived through history, and it's really important that your story is preserved so that the future generations and we can learn and hear about your experiences. So I just thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you ever so much.
yeah, and thank you for your service as well. We appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
We're very grateful.